Highway of the Raj. I started collecting the data for this book, photographs, back in 1980. And it's only in the last few years I put this into a format of a book. Highway of the Raj looks at the architectural and historical important buildings of British India and Singapore. I was interested in the purpose of these buildings, their function, who built them, why were they built, the architects, when were they built, what are the architectural definitions of these buildings. In this short video, I'll look at the chapter on Bombay. One of the people who inspired me with this book in collecting data was Kisan Mehta. Kisan ran a small organisation called Save the Bombay Committee, but he was the head of the Municipal Council of Bombay. And here is Kisan and myself on the roof of his building in Parsi Colony, Bombay. This is the municipal building where Kisan's office was. One of the earliest buildings that Kisan introduced me to was Hornby House. And this was the Governor of Bombay's house from 1771 to 1784. On the wall is a plaque, and it was formerly known as Admiralty House. When I visited this building in 1986, it was used as offices for the World Wildlife Fund, the president of which is Prince Philip. The Beatles released a recording of Across the Universe on an LP to raise money for the fund. I understand that this was the Governor's house. It was also known as Sardar's Palace, and it became known as Company's House from 1829. Now, on the foundation stone, which is hidden by shopkeepers' boxes, reads data about the building that this was a residence of the Governor of Bombay from 1757 until 1829. These are the High Courts. The architect was Colonel James Augustus Fuller. And Fuller was inspired by F.W. Stevens' first architectural project in Bombay. Work commenced in 1871, building this Venetian Gothic structure, and stands on Esplanade Row in Bombay, along with other important Gothic structures of government. Close by is the Secretariat building on Esplanade Row. This is Venetian Gothic style and was commissioned in 1874. During this time, St Pancras in London was being built. Colonel Henry Wilkins of the Royal Engineers was the architect for this building. The Public Works Department. This building is over 280 feet long and was designed by Colonel Henry St Clair Wilkins. Construction work commenced in 1869. Now, the General Post Office, the GPO, stands close to Victoria Terminus railway station. It was designed by John Beck, who's from Bowness in Scotland. The architectural style is noted as Indo-Saracenic. The original General Post Office, built in 1870, is Neo-Gothic and is located on Churchgate Street, not far from Flora Fountain, and it stands opposite the Public Works Department on the Esplanade. The main architect for this building was James Trubshaw, and there was a statue of Queen Victoria which was erected outside this building, and this statue now resides in the gardens of the Victoria Museum in Byculla. Now, this is Bombay Town Hall, and it was actually funded from a lottery that was conducted. The town hall was started in 1820. The architect was Colonel T. Cowper of the Bombay Engineers. The facade of Greek columns were made in England, and 2 columns were left over and integrated into the structure of Christ Church in Byculla, which was under construction at the time. The Royal Alfred Sailors' Home was completed in 1876, was opened on the 1st of January 1877 to celebrate the date Queen Victoria was crowned Empress of India. It's a Gothic design presented by the architect F.W. Stevens, who later became well known for his masterpiece of the Victoria Terminus railway station. This building was Stevens' first design in Bombay. The Oriental building is just opposite Flora Fountain on the corner of Esplanade Road and Hornby Road. Originally it was the Cathedral High School, and it was substantially renovated, redesigned in 1898 by F.W. Stevens. Now, Elphinstone Circle was constructed on the original 18th century site named Bombay Green in the Fort District of Bombay. George Clark designed the layout of the Elphinstone Circle during his time as Governor of Bombay, and by 1865 these buildings were almost complete. In the evening, a band used to perform in the park across the road from Elphinstone Circle. The Elphinstone building was completed in 1870, is Venetian Gothic design and was used for offices. The Sassoon Dock. This is the first wet dock in Bombay. It was financed by Albert Sassoon and was built in Calabar, completed in 1875. The Marshall Building stands on the corner of Ballard Road and Freer Street. It's an Edwardian Baroque style by Charles Frederick Stevens, who was the son of F.W.C. Stevens. It was completed in 1906 for Messrs Marshall and Sons Engineering, a British engineering company originally from Gainsborough in Lincolnshire. The Raj Bombay Clock Tower. This clock tower is one of Sir George Gilbert Scott's best known designs in India. He was the young architect in the UK for the Liverpudlian Anglican Cathedral, and the plans for this tower is sent from England. It's a 14th century Italian Gothic style. The Raj Bombay Clock Tower is over 280 feet high and contains a complete set of bells weighing over 12 tons. There were 16 tunes that could be played on these bells, from Handel's Symphony, Real Britannia, Bluebells of Scotland, Auld Lang Syne. The construction of the Big Ben of Bombay commenced in 1869 and was completed on the 1st of January 1878. This building was privately financed by Premchand Roychand, who was the most famous banker in Bombay at the time, and was named after Premchand's mother, who was called Rajabai. Darabshire House was the headquarters of Steve Doring Company, Bombay Gas Company. The Hotel Majestic was built in 1909 and was a luxury hotel in its day. It's in the Calabar Causeway at the corner of Wodehouse Road. Indo-Saracenic architecture by W.A. Chambers. Keeson Mehta told me that this hotel was the Apollo Hotel, and during the Second World War and afterwards it housed British troops. The famous Watson's Hotel. Mr. John Watson bought the land in an auction held by the Bombay government in 1864, and he purchased the structure from England, where it was fabricated by a factory called Webster's, located in Burnham. It was designed by Roland Mason, and the building was shipped out to Bombay and erected on site. It's an I-frame structure, external and internal verandas, the first of its kind and at the time the grandest in Bombay. I noticed a photograph of the 1880s shows that Watson's Hotel was standing alone in the fields close to the shoreline. Interesting, the first slideshow in India was exhibited in the hotel, and in 1896 Mark Twain stayed at the hotel. In the Victorian times, Watson's Hotel was the leading hotel, and there was a rumour that Watson refused Tata, a millionaire, as a guest. Tata was the founder of the famous Tata Group, and he responded to this shun by commissioning a local architect, Chambers, to design a 400-room prestigious hotel. Elements of Gujarati architecture are included in this design. The Bombay Flying Club held its first meeting in one of the Moorish rooms in the Taj on the 30th of May 1929. The Taj was also used as a military hospital during the Second World War. The Grand Hotel, designed in classical architecture by George Whittitt and built in 1926. Crawford Market was built in 1865 and stands on the corner of Carnac Road and Esplanade Road. The architect was Emerson William Burgess, and he designed this in the 12th century French Gothic style. The market was named after its founder Arthur Crawford, and he was the first Bombay Municipal Commissioner from 1865 to 1871. In 1882, electric lighting was installed in this building. John Lockwood Kipling, the father of Rudyard Kipling, sculptured the reliefs. It's a vegetable and general market. A school in Bombay. The Anjuman Islam School was built in 1892. The frieze above the door is reported to be a copy, because the original is in the British Museum. Elphinstone High School. Originally a Franciscan church stood on this site. The Educational Institute was founded in Carnac Road in 1820. This building was erected in 1822 from a design by the architect G.T. Mulcahy, and it was in 1840 it was renamed as Elphinstone Institution. Elphinstone College, Byculla. This college is located close to the Victoria and Albert Museum Gardens in Leigh. It's a Gothic structure designed by James Trubshaw and completed in 1871. The building was renamed the Victoria Technical Institute and has been used as a hospital. Xavier's College was founded by German Jesuits in 1868. Xavier's High School was designed by German architect Karl Wagner in 1869, and this is in the Fort area of Bombay. The Bombay School of Art and was designed by the architect W. Burgess in French Gothic style. John Lockwood Kipling, i.e. the father of Rudyard Kipling, and William Emerson were directors here. Elphinstone Institute, or College, was formed in 1835 and it's built on Esplanade Road, completed in 1874. It was built by the institution as a tribute to the former governor of Bombay, Mount Stuart Elphinstone. It's located not far from the Mechanics Institute. The architect was Sir George Gilbert Scott, and in some ways it reflects the French Gothic style of the Manchester University building on Oxford Road in Manchester in the United Kingdom. A portrait of Elphinstone by Lawrence hangs in the library, and there is a collection of East India documents and a letter by Wesley giving details of his victory at Assay. The Elphinstone College was founded in Elphinstone's honour by wealthy native people, including Sir Kawasji Jehangir Ready Money, Customs House. The Bombay was transferred in 1668 to the East India Company, and they administered justice from the Customs House. The warehouses on the wharf were converted into a customs house and used until about 1840. Extensive rebuilding took place in 1895. There's a stone tablet adjacent to the front gate in commemoration of Sir Charles Pritchard's work related to customs and salt duties. Now, this is the Royal Institute of Science and was founded by George Clark in 1920. It served as a venue to conduct a variety of scientific research. This institute is located not far from the Raj Bombay clock tower, and the architect was George Whittet. Jacob Sassoon financed this construction on the west bank of the three-storey building. Waterloo Mansions are in Wodehouse Road, Calabar, not far from the Gateway of India. It's Indo-Gothic style and originally had turrets on the top of this building. Waterloo Mansion is just a few yards away from Wellington Fountain. Bombay Port Trust. The Port Trust building was completed in 1904 and was designed by C.F. Stevens, and it faced Queen Victoria's statue. The Port Trust acquired Sassoon Dock in 1889. Their job was to place buoys in the harbours and river entrances. The Prince of Wales Museum. The completion of the Prince of Wales Museum happened in 1915, and the architect was George Whittet. The museum contained three main themes comprising of archaeology, natural history, art and painting. And there is a Sir Ratan Tata section which contains donated paintings by Tata, including works by David Herbert Lawrence, Thomas Gainsborough, and there are items of silver, Indian silver. There's a statue in the gardens of King George V, which overlooks the entrance. The Victoria and Albert Museum. It was in 1862 that Sir Bartle Frere laid the foundation stone of the museum in Byculla. The museum was originally called the Government Central Museum. It was designed by William Tracy in a classical architectural style. Scott and McClelland and Co. finished the buildings, including the Sassoon Clock Tower in the gardens. It is believed a company in Lincolnshire called Blashfields manufactured and supplied the ceramic panels and the triumphal arch entrance. The brass turnstile was originally from Bear Lane in Southwark in the UK. The Victoria and Albert Museum Gardens were opened in 1873, and later in the Victorian era an elephant statue was brought from Elephanta Caves and placed in the gardens. I noticed in the gardens there was a small boating lake, and evidence that it was used for leisure boating. There are many unloved statues in the gardens of royalty, such as Queen Victoria statue, Prince Albert statue on his horse, Lord Harding statue, Arthur Crawford statue, the British Lions on Guard, the Mechanics Institute, also known as David Sassoon Library. The architectural design was a joint effort by Colonel James Augustus Fuller and Sir George Gilbert Scott. Gilbert Scott never visited India. This building is located on Esplanade Road and it was opened in 1870. The institute offered a library and lecture room for mechanical engineers. David Sassoon was born in Baghdad in 1792, and the family settled in Bombay in 1833, and he opened an accountancy company. He became a very wealthy man. The Army Navy Stores. Major McRae was the first managing director of the Army Navy Stores, and it was started by a group of Army and Navy officers in 1891. They also had a branch of the Army Navy Stores in Calcutta. The London branch of the Army Navy was in Victoria Street. In 1976, the House of Fraser acquired the group. Brady House is located in Nariman Road. This property possibly once belonged to W.H. Brady Company Limited, who were involved in British textile machinery imports to India from Lancashire. The Standard Chartered Bank. James Wilson was the founder of the Chartered Bank in Bombay, Calcutta and Shanghai in 1853. He received permission to do this by royal charter from Queen Victoria. 1 year later, he opened the bank in Hong Kong and Singapore. The bank supported trade in cotton from Bombay, tea in other regions of India. It was in 1969 that the Chartered Bank and the Standard Bank merged to form the Standard Chartered Bank. The Allahabad Bank is the oldest bank in India. The bank was commissioned by British bankers on the 24th of April 1865. Gresham Life was established in 1895. They moved in 1906 to a building on Esplanade Road. The present building is located near the Ballard Estate. It was built in 1939. Grinley's Bank was established in London in 1828 by Leslie and Grinley, and they acted as bankers and agents to the British Army and British businesses in India. Eventually they became part of the Royal Bank of Scotland. The British Bank of the Middle East was founded in 1913. The Victoria Terminus. And Mr. Willoughby had the honour to dig the first mound of earth in 1878, initiating the construction of this cathedral-sized Victoria Terminus. The building is situated on Horby Road and was opened for business in 1882. The building was ceremoniously named and illuminated in honour of Her Majesty Queen Victoria, Empress of India. Sir Bartle Frere derived the motto Primus in India. The building is more than 1,500 feet in length. There's a 16-foot high statue mounted on top of the dome, which represents progress. Below this dome is the main staircase, naturally lit through large stained glass windows. In the central frontage, there's a niche which once housed a statue of Queen Victoria. The main gates are mounted by imposing stone sculptures of the British lion and an Indian tiger. John Lockwood Kipling and Stevens designed many statues and other surface features which were manufactured at the Bombay School of Art. And it was in 1869 that a lightning storm occurred which fractured the head and the torch off the Statue of Progress. The statue was later renovated by Bombay's J.J. School of Art. Frederick William Stevens, 1848 to 1900, was the architect of this Indo-Saracenic Gothic masterpiece. He was reportedly inspired by Scott's St Pancras Station in London. According to Philip Davis, the Victoria Terminus is the finest Victorian Gothic building in India. Churchgate offices, and they were named because St Thomas's Church could be seen from here. The Baroda and Central Railway commissioned the construction of these offices. It was in 1863 they moved into Churchgate. The architect for these was C.F. Stevens, who was the son of the renowned architect F.W. Stevens. The Royal Opera House is the only surviving opera house in India today. It was designed in Baroque style by the architects Maurice Banman and Jehangir Karakar. It's on Charney Road. The foundation stone of this building was laid by King George V in 1911, and the building was completed the following year in 1912. I was intrigued with the paintings on the dome ceiling as you enter the reception area. Flora Fountain is the most well-known fountain in Bombay. It was erected in honour of Sir Bartle Frere, who was the governor of Bombay. It was originally named Frere Fountain. It was intended to mount this fountain in Victoria Gardens at Byculla. Wellington Fountain stands opposite the Royal Alfred Sailors' Home. The fountain was built in 1865 in honour of Arthur Wesley's visit to Bombay on two occasions in 1801 and 1804. He was later to become the Duke of Wellington. His elder brother, Lord Wesley, was Governor-General of India. Mulji Memorial Fountain. This was completed in 1894, designed by Designed by a British architect in a Bati Hindu style, it was built as a memorial to the young son of an eminent Bombay businessman. The bandstand. All I know about the bandstand, it was renovated around about 1983-84. The Karma Abless Hospital. This was to provide medical care for women and children. Mr. Khan Sadur and Kawasji Mirzban were the architects of this medieval Gothic style hospital. The foundation stone was put in place by the Duke of Connaught on the 22nd of November 1883. Grant Medical College. Sir Robert Grant was the governor of Bombay from 1835 to 1838. He promoted a health system and education. The foundation stone of JJ Hospital was laid by Dr. James Byrne on the 3rd of January 1843. The Grant Medical College was founded in 1845. Now, the construction of this building was financed by both the East India Company and Sir Jamsetji Jeejeebhoy. I've seen a sketch that declares it was designed by a captain of the Bombay Engineers. And the building originally contained 8 wards and 237 beds. The Hafkin Institute. This was a government house built in 1869 in Baikala, but in 1896 it was converted for use and opened by Mr. Hafkin as the bacteriological laboratory and was known as the Plague Research Laboratory. Ears, Nose and Throat Clinic. Bombay Gymkhana. Architect was Claude Batley, and the building itself was opened in 1875. The first president of the club was Sir Littleton Bailey of the High Court. India's first Test cricket match was held here on the 15th of December 1933. St Thomas's Cathedral. Some initial groundwork was commenced here in 1672, but up to that point, up to 1675, a room was used as a church located in the castle area known as Fort Chapel. Later, Bombay Green was selected as the place to build St Thomas's Church. Sir John Charles was the governor of Bombay from 1681 to 1690. The foundation stone was laid on the 18th of November 1715. The chancel in the church was designed by the architect James Trubshaw. The church bell was manufactured in Bombay and was donated by Governor Boone. There's a crack in the bell, which remains since those times. The clock in the tower was manufactured by McCarb & Co, and it cost 555 guineas. The organ was made by Messrs Bishop and Starr. All Saints Church. It was reported in the Times of India that there was a need for a church locally in this area, as the main cathedral was 8 miles away. Major Mant of the Royal Engineers was the architect for the church. All Saints Church was consecrated in 1882, and it's located on Gibbs Lane at the top of Malabar Hill. Wesley Church was built in 1840. It was sometimes known as the Navy Church, as many military people attended here. 1813, the East India Company appointed a chaplain to be the minister for the Church of Scotland in Bombay, and it was in 1816 that the foundation stone of the church was placed on this land, and a spire was added in 1823. The church is a neoclassical style. Sometimes St Andrew's Church is known as Scotch Kirk. Majinda Vid Synagogue. This is the first synagogue, the Gate of Mercy in Bombay, was founded in the bazaar area in 1796. McKinnon Hall was built in 1832 and named after the Reverend Dr. D. McKinnon, who was the principal of Wilson College, and apparently it still operates today as a college. Tata House. The building is also known as the Palace. Tata was responsible for building mills, hydroelectric power stations and the Taj Hotel. Tata visited England and died in the UK and is buried at Brookwood Cemetery in Surrey. The house in Bombay. Now, going up to Malabar Hill, some of these residential mansions in Malabar Hill, a very prestigious area, impressive architecture. This was the Sansuchi Mansion Messina Hospital. This was originally known as Sansui, which means carefree mansion. It was started in the 1850s and a palatial residence that belonged to David Sassoon. There were 3 beautiful crystal chandeliers, one of which later hung in the Royal Bombay Opera House. Lord Elphinstone visited this building in 1850. The Royal Yacht Club was founded in 1846 by the resident British community. Norman Shaw was the architect, and he designed this in Swiss style. It was opened in 1881 and built on the site of a Polabunda, previously known as Wellington Reclamation. The Gateway of India overlooks the Arabian Sea. The site is actually known as Apollo Bunda, but was known as Apollo Pier, and had previously been named as Wellington Pier to commemorate the visit of the Duke of Wellington in India. It was built for the arrival of King George V and Queen Mary for their first visit to India in 1911. It's a Mughal-style triumphal arch. The Gateway of India was designed by George Whitted. The Orient Club. So going over to a different area of Bombay called Bandra. Bandra Railway Station. The building of the railway station started in 1867. Walking around Bandra, there are some beautiful Victorian residences. These are lit up by the evening sun, all gold, all yellow looking. So back to Bombay. The Times of India. The first edition of the Bombay Times of India was on the 3rd of November 1838. In 1861, the paper's editor, Robert Knight, changed its name to the Times of India, and by the end of the 1800s, the Times of India employed 800 people and became the largest English language selling daily paper in the world, with a readership of over 7 million people. I noticed close by to the Times of India building were large gardens, and in these gardens was the unoccupied house of the architect and teacher John Lockwood Kipling and his wife Alice. He was the father to Rudyard Kipling. Rudyard Kipling was born in Bombay in this house in November 1865. His literature achievements include The Jungle Book, Kim, Wee Willie Winkie, The Man Who Would Be King, and Plain Tales from the Hills. He used the hill station Simla as a setting for his books. Kipling and Elgar worked together on several songs, which included a song called The Fringes of the Fleet. Rudyard Kipling retired to Sussex and died in 1936. When I visited here in 1986, the house was abandoned and becoming derelict. I walked through the house. I could not resist. I walked through the gardens and the house. A lion statue. So this is the end of chapter 1 of The Highway of the Raj. Other chapters will include Poona, Simla, Delhi, New Delhi, Calcutta, Madras and Singapore. I'd like to thank my son Jayme for helping construct the book with all his hard work on scanning photographs and coordinating information for me.